Well, hey there, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Travel with the Stars. I'm your hostess, Jen. I have some return stars as well as a new star with me today. Let's start with our new face. Hello to Patty, hailing from
Hi.
Pittsburgh. Hey, hey. And then returning to the show, we have David Dollar next to Patty.
Hello, hello, hello.
Ooh, he's a little frozen. There he is. And Heather.
Hello.
Yeah, so we have two of us stuck in Pittsburgh where it's actually not half bad today, but it's not as warm as Alabama and Florida.
It's 71
So
outside. It's pretty rough.
let's
Yeah, I saw one cloud this morning as I was getting back home from the gym. So it's a little rough outside right now.
It's what I can't right now.
Well, there's no Space Mountain, so I can't compete with Heather.
No, you can't.
No, there's no guardians. That's what you mean.
That too.
That's right. There's no guardians.
There's a wooden roller coaster about 20 miles up the road in a small theme park that's not even open right now because of the weather, or because of the season. So yeah, Heather wins.
Yeah. She's gonna win every battle when it comes to that.
It really is.
So yeah, today, folks, we are going to talk about food allergies, food sensitivities, food preferences, even in the Walt Disney, well, not just Walt Disney World, but in the Disney portfolio, because what you might be wondering is, well, you know what, I have some pretty strict restrictions, or I have this issue or that issue, and I get nervous traveling because I just don't know if anybody can adhere to what I need to have in order to feel my best and to be healthy and have fun on vacation. I have three folks here who have experience with this. My husband has a peanut allergy as well as a soy protein allergy. So that's something that we have dealt with. So we just want to talk about why you should not be afraid to travel to these locations. I mean, obviously exercise caution, speak with your doctors, all of that. But let's talk about what Disney can do to accommodate you. So, all right, let's start first. David, your son, Campbell, has a lot of food restrictions. So, and let's talk about what they can do, or what they do for him, specifically at Walt Disney World. Let's start with table services.
Okay. Table service. Well, to set it up, my kid, he's 11 years old. He's a little growing little boy, and he has autism, so he's on the spectrum. He doesn't really have any allergies, but we do keep him restricted. We try to regulate his diet, and he's pretty much the healthiest kid that I know physically. We keep him away. Just specifically, we don't do dairy, we don't do sugar, we don't do wheat and gluten. So we avoid all those things when we can. Now at Disney World, it's kind of hard because a lot of those things, even the quote unquote good for you food, are going to have some of those things in it. But what my wife does ahead of time is she basically uses the Disney World service where she will email in her dining requests. She sets it up to each restaurant, say, hey, we're going to, on Tuesday, this date, we're going to Liberty Tree Tavern. And on Wednesday, this date, we're going to be at Hollywood. So we're going to Sci-Fi. Now, Thursday, and she'll say these are what we're allergic to. And they will contact her back. And many times when we go to the restaurant, they will be prepared for us to come in. They will see it on the reservation, the restrictions, and the server will come up and say, okay, so who's my guest with my restrictions? And then my wife, who does all the nutrition, she's the nutrition administration in our house. She'll look at the server and she'll say, it's my son, and she'll go through it. A lot of times the chef will come out and the chef will simply say, okay, well, we've got, here's what we're going to do for him. We're going to cook him a steak. We're going to keep it over here. We're going to cook him some carrots. My son is, like many autistic children, very particular about his carrots. You've got to be cubed. You can't give me slices. You can't cut it along with it, whatever. So sometimes they can't do it, but most of the time they will cut it in cubes for him specifically. Separate counter, no cross-contamination. You have to know that there's always a chance something could happen. So if it's a life and death situation, tell your server, hey, if my kid has these things, we're going to the hospital. So please, and so, I mean, for the most part, if he grabs a cookie or he drinks a glass of milk, it's not the end of the world. We just try to keep him off of it. Yeah. But even to the point where, we will try to get foods with no dyes in them, no nitrates in them, no sugars at all in them. They will do flourless bread. His first waffle, his first sandwich, his first pancakes ever were at Disney World, and they were all his first waffle and syrup at the Bon Voyage breakfast when we used to have it with Ariel and Rapunzel. They brought him out a plate of waffles and sausage and fruit. And he dipped everything in the syrup, sausage in the syrup, the waffle in the syrup. I mean, everything was going in the syrup because he loved it so much. And it was all stuff that he could eat. We love Disney. We love how good they are. by special diets because they recognize that there are people out there, small children, young children, older kids, grown-ups, that just cannot have certain things because of the way our bodies are made up. And they want to make sure that everybody can have the most awesome magical experience possible, especially with the food. It's harder to do when you do counter services and kiosks. We'll get to those, I guess, in a few minutes. But with table services, my hint really is to plan ahead, look ahead, email ahead. We can give that information to you guys as travel agents and say, this is what we're going on, this is what we're dealing with. And what I tell my clients is be as specific as you're comfortable being with Disney. If there's certain things you just don't feel comfortable saying, then don't. Then you don't have to.
Sure.
If you can be as open as you possibly can about certain things. Hey, my child's this. He really can't have these things. She can't have those things. I encourage you guys to do it. So table services are great.
Fantastic. And Patty, now you use that email address as well because you actually you are celiac. You actually
I'm not.
Oh, okay. So
I just have a dairy or a gluten sensitivity. I'm actually more of a problem with dairy.
okay.
I don't because I find that in my case, it depends on the dairy. I do gluten free, but I find that because it's part of that top 9, and it's like cross contamination doesn't bother me.
Okay.
That I don't need to use the email address. However, my mother-in-law has used it because she has done she couldn't do sulfurous foods for a while and other things like that. So I would agree with David that emailing them if you have a lot of things that you are concerned about would be.
And have you had any issues walking up at a table service and you're just saying yes, I do. Do you just use the special menu? Because for those who don't know, there's a special menu.
Right. So I, if it's a new to me restaurant, I typically use the app or the website and look at what they have. Am I going to actually eat this? Because, maybe I don't want fish, or something. And then, and I always, when I make my reservations, I always mark on there that we have food allergies, just so that they're notified ahead, excuse me. And then when I check in, I say it again, look, I have food allergies. Can you please make sure that they know this? And they always put that little stamp on the slip so that the server can say something to us.
Yeah. Heather, what about your experience with dining and food?
So I have a weird allergy, which is very, I don't know, it's odd. I have a marshmallow allergy. So that pertains to primarily any kind of dips or desserts or something like that. So I just ask, if I'm at Main Street Bakery, what is in this? Hold on, let me check. What I will say is with the kiosks, for specifically the fry basket, whenever they do the fry flight, they have that, what is it? That sweet potato fry that's cinnamon and it has a marshmallow cream drizzle over top of it. I just go up, I say, hey, I need a fry plate. I have an allergy to marshmallows. They make the fries separate and they put the little stick in it that says allergy. And I enjoy the fry plate just as much as everybody else. So I've never had an issue with it whatsoever. I have clients that have things, celiac and gluten allergies and whatever. We always put it on their reservation whenever they do the check-in. Once they're there, even on the app, that you can just click the button to tell them. And a lot of times I say, how Patty's saying, if you don't want what's on the special menu, the chef will come out and make something that works for what your allergy needs are. And don't even get me started on how amazing Disney Cruise Line is with it.
Oh, well, we'll talk about that too. I mean, well, I'm going to use an example from Ohana. So I mentioned that my husband has a peanut and a soy protein allergy. It also gets into sesame if there's too much sesame. But, it's fairly mild. He can avoid most things. And he hates whenever I disclose because they won't even bring bread to the table. He's like, I can have the bread. I don't want, I don't want to not bring in the bread. I don't want the attention. However, in a place like Ohana where there are a lot of sauces and soy and things of that nature, we said something. I'm telling you, the chef made this creation. I have a picture of it. It was the rice in the middle and all of the skewers coming up the side. He made it look like a volcano with the uncooked noodles coming out of the top. It was
magical.
It was this gorgeous display. And it was all for him, because the rest of us are getting the Ohana, whatever, we're taking the stuff as they're serving it. It was amazing. So it's don't feel like you're going to miss out on an experience because they make it happen and they make it flavorful, and he enjoyed all of his.
Well, you say, and Heather said too about the desserts, and you kind of,
Yeah.
A lot of times I find when I tell people that I have gluten and dairy, they're like, oh, well, you can't have a dessert because all you get is fruit. And, and I'm like, but I'm not like, and anyways, I'm like, but I don't want fruit. Like, I love fruit. Don't get me wrong. But like,
I want fruit for dessert.
If everybody else is having dessert, and I find that Disney is so much better than a lot of other locations.
Yeah.
They still have a dessert that I can have, even though I can't have gluten and dairy. And I love that.
Yeah. That's huge. Now let's talk about quick service. Have you guys had experience with quick service? What would you tell clients about going to quick service? So let's go back to you, David.
Well, a lot of quick services now are either have or are getting special allergy menus separately. Pizza Rizzo is a great example in Hollywood. They actually have a literal separate menu just for special needs, just special diets. And my kid gets a whole personal pizza to himself, and he loves it. And he talks about it, even though he's really only had one slice. We'll pay $12 for a pizza and eats one little piece and whatever. But he talks about it because he wants to go to Hollywood to eat pizza because that's the only place in his life right now he gets pizza. They make it especially for him, no flour, no gluten. It's all gluten free, whatever. And there are other, going back to say Crystal Palace's table service as an example, they have a special needs menu separate from the regular menu. A lot of quick services now are getting those because I think Disney is really seeing the rise in special diets.
Yeah.
If you get there and they don't have one, then do what Heather just said. You have to ask questions. You have to say, what's in this? Don't be afraid to hold the line up for a second. Ask for an ingredient list, step off to the side, look at the ingredients and come back. This is your meal. This is your child's meal, your meal specifically, whatever. You need to make sure that you're safe. Don't worry about, be courteous, but don't worry about the person behind you getting a patient because you're taking an extra 2 minutes to look at ingredients. But with counter services, the problem we run into, however, is like with the desserts and snacks, because a lot of counter services just have standard, the Enjoy brand is what they have with the cookies and stuff, where they'll give you a standard cupcake or something like that. When, and my kid, he'll eat those, but he'll look around and he'll see me eating an ice cream sandwich, or he'll see my wife eating cannoli from somewhere. And he's like, I have 2 little chocolate cookies. That's all I have. And so, we have to make provisions for that as well. And so it's, Disney can only do so much. We recognize that. And you have to know that, yes, they will go 85% of the way, but there's 10 to 15% they just cannot do on a mass scale. And be prepared for that. Don't be afraid to bring your own snacks. Don't be afraid to bring your own things, which we do for Campbell, for our kid. So when we have desserts, he can have cupcakes and things like that. And to that point, one of our favorite place to go at the very beginning of our trip is Disney Springs, McKenna's Bakery. We will go to McKenna's. It is a gluten-free bakery. He can have nearly everything in there, and he gets to pick out what he wants: cupcakes, cookies, brownies, whatever. We buy basically, a little stock of those, take them back to the room. We take those with us each day. That's his dessert: a cupcake, a big fat cookie, a big, a s'more, whatever cannoli, whatever cookie, whatever. He can eat those. We're comfortable with it. He's gotten to pick it out for himself. So when we're having dinner that night, when we're having cheesecake, wherever we're eating, we pull out this cupcake with this frosting that he can eat on it. He loves it. So McKenna's Bakery is a definite great spot to go to.
Patty, do you have any other favorites especially for your desserts, since that's one that...
Honestly, at quick services, I don't eat dessert a lot, so I don't know. But I will definitely agree with David that, like, take a moment. And a lot of times they're encouraging you to do the online ordering, mobile ordering.
Yep.
And you can, but don't be afraid to say, hey, I don't want what's on there.
Right.
Like, what can you do for me instead?
Sure.
I've done
and a lot of the they assign like a cast member. If you say like, hey, I have an allergy, and they're checking on it, that one cast member will pull you in the line and like have a side and just say, hey, it's going to take a few minutes. Let me talk to like the chef back there.
Right.
And that cast member will be the same one that will come out and tell you like what they're able to do or what ingredients are in the food that you're looking at on that quick service menu. They're awesome about it. I mean, what other place can you go like in everyday life where they would take time out to do that?
Well, right.
Yeah.
I mean, for thousands of people.
I mean, I sat there with my friend Christine, who does keto, and like she has like a keto page and the whole thing. And literally, I would watch her order. The chef would come out and she would be like, "Okay, so this is what I can eat, and I went with full fat butter and this." And it was just astounding what they would come up with and how wonderful the majority of the restaurants were
Mhm.
about that. Now, keep in mind, there are a couple of restaurants in Disney Springs that are owned not by Disney. They still, for the most part, did a great job. So in my experience, but in terms of if you're in the parks or in the theme parks, Disney, most of Disney Springs, it is a Disney owned restaurant, and they really go above and beyond.
The biggest problem, Jen, that we've come up with is back in the day, which we don't do it much anymore, but back in the day when we would stay at value resorts, their quick services are very just mass produced. They want to get the people in and out and everything. So one thing we had, and we don't do this anymore with eggs, but we would have eggs that we would try to cook and everything. They have powdered eggs at value resorts. Deluxe resorts, some moderates, they'll have real eggs they can actually cook for you on a separate grill. Value resorts likely will not. They will have powder. So if you don't want powdered eggs, you've got to make other provisions. Maybe bring your own. They always every counter service or every restaurant has a microwave there. So we would always try to stay in a preferred room closer to a microwave so I could run over there real quick. And I think we stayed at the Swan, and I had to go across to the Dolphin every morning to get to the microwave because they didn't have one in the Swan. It was ridiculous.
That's weird.
And so which. Jen, I know this is a value resort. I know you're like, I don't know what you're talking
Swan's
about.
Swan's not a value resort.
Bear with me. Well, I mean, just overall, which my kid doesn't stay in value anymore. They stay in moderate or deluxe. So this is not a problem. But just be aware, if you're going to a value resort, you may run into a few dietary issues that you won't run into at the parks because they don't have a lot of the equipment there to do stuff. So you have to make provisions for it, knowing going into it, what can you do? So,
yeah. No, that's great. Now Heather mentioned earlier Disney Cruise Line. So Heather, let's start with you. Disney Cruise is like one of your girls' favorites. And one of your favorites. I mean, it's one of my favorites. So.
I mean, like, just put me on a ship now and you'll see me like, too. I'll be fine. They are amazing with Allergies because whenever you book the trip, you can ask your clients, hey, what are your food allergies? You call in the allergies. They are all listed there, right? Yep. Anything that you can make changes to, I mean, down to, which we all know, like one of our former agents, she has a high allergy tolerant, high allergy list. And I always joke with her, like, it's literally a list. Right. And every time she books a trip with me now, I'm like, okay, I'm getting ready to do it. I have a note saved in my phone just for all of her bookings that I'm like, okay, I'm just going to call in. And it's on pretty much their like Castaway, like their notes now, but I do it like for all of them. But even when you get on the ship, if you have an allergy, when you sit down to that first meal, they're like, okay, here's the allergies that we have listed here. Here's what we can do for you. Is there anything else we mix? Like, they go above and beyond with it. And it's insane how much you would think, oh, I'm restricted because there's only so much food on a cruise ship. Right. They go above and beyond. Like, I would say that they're better than Disney World when it comes to allergies because the presentation, like you were saying, how they made like a volcano in Disney World. They do these insane presentations for like these allergy friendly dishes. And it's amazing. And with desserts on the ship, for me, I'm always like, well, if it has marshmallow, like I can't have it. They come out with like these crazy, and everything's like a hidden Mickey shaped thing, for a dessert. I love it. Yeah. They are superb with it. Yeah.
Patty, what's your experience on Disney Cruise Line? Because you've done a few Disney cruises.
So my favorite part is the fact that your servers follow you. So like, they know, from the very beginning. Yeah. So I know like tomorrow I'm going to have the same server and he's going to know what I want. Other cruise lines I don't find have that capability in the same way. So that's like my favorite part is that he follows me. I mean, down to the point he knew that my son would always want mac and cheese. Like, obviously he's not got dairy allergies, but he knew every night that my son was going to order the mac and cheese. So like, to me, that's what makes the Disney difference with food allergies on a cruise line because they follow me everywhere.
Yeah. And they are very like, oh my gosh. And David, I know you didn't have Campbell with you on the Disney cruise you went on. Right. But I know that you had a great experience with your servers. Were you with anybody? Like, I know with Brady, they have always been like so, cautious. They're like double checking everything and like, oh, sir, like make sure here. Did you experience that at all with any of the agents you were with or anybody?
Oh, there were several agents that we would sit because once you go on a trip, which it was an agency familiarization trip, whatever you call it, education, whatever. So a lot of travel agents from different agencies were coming together, and you find your little group because you're there for a week. So you find the people you hang with for most of the week. And in our little group of people, there were several that would have different allergies, whether it's dairy, whether it's gluten, whether it's wheat or whatever. And like Patty said, it's extremely accommodating. And by night number 2, they were already coming out. They were already like, they're taking notes and stuff. And so they're presenting, and we're getting this, and we're getting this. And for you, we have something special, whatever. And they're making it like, you're the special one of the group because yours is going to be a little bit different. But I think they can also tell too, if you don't want to be called out like Brady or whatever, they probably like, okay, and for you, we're taking care of this and whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, they were really good about that and about taking care of everybody. And, and there was once when I think something came out and the girl asked her about it and he was like, oh my gosh, you're right. Let me go fix this. And immediately it was fixed and done.
Yeah.
So yeah, so it worked really well.
Yeah, they do. They really do just such a wonderful job there. And I'm actually going to throw out, since we're talking about the Disney product as a whole, I'm going to throw out Adventures by Disney because I was just on an Adventures by Disney. I've been on a few to the level of, we were in Italy and there was somebody with actual celiac. You cannot have gluten when you are a celiac. And we were in Italy, like pasta, pizza, but it was fine. It was absolutely fine. Like they had made arrangements. The adventure guys had made arrangements ahead of time at all of the restaurants so that the person, did not have to worry about that allergy. In Costa Rica, it was the same thing. Somebody in our traveling party had, I know one of them was a dairy allergy. I can't remember what the other one was. Oh, it was like a fruit, like strawberry, or but it's something that is, I don't want to say an uncommon food allergy, but one that can be a little bit more difficult to avoid, Right. So maybe it was banana, but again, they were making arrangements ahead of time, making sure like, okay, no, we've checked this. The kitchen already knows, so that there was definitely something for everybody to eat.
The Disney difference.
Yes.
And we didn't mention like in terms of like buffets and stuff. So if you're not doing like the sit down ones that have the buffets, and I'm going to go back to Disney Cruise Line again with this.
Yep.
And then you guys can talk about the buffets that you've experienced at Disney World. But Disney Cruise Line, if you tell one of the cast members that you have an allergy, they give you like that little plaque that you put on your table, and someone comes over to you and says like, okay, I'm just going to triple check everything here and I'm going to take it back and I'm going to tell the chef. And then you get your own, like sometimes people have allergies to the oil that they cook in, and they will cook it in a separate oil. And they have almost all the same offerings that are like not their allergies, that are not cooked in that oil. And they come out with like this giant spread, like in the middle of the buffet for them, like to be like accommodating for allergies. So even buffets, they go above and beyond.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
We've experienced that several times at the parks because we'll go to Crystal Palace or we'll go to Chef Mickey or whatever. And they will bring out a plate of food for Campbell, specially made for him, with steak or with meat or with bacon or with whatever's on it. One thing though that I think it's important to bring up is pricing, because I think you have to be prepared to pay the correct price for it. Just because your kid gets one little plate of food and he only eats half of it doesn't mean, well, he only had half a thing. I mean, with the character meals, you're paying for the experience. So that's just like you going in as an adult and eating a couple of bites and saying, you know what, I didn't really eat very much. I wasn't very hungry. Can I get a different? No, you have to be prepared for it. Sometimes your server will say, and I've had this happen, oh, well, you know what, we're going to charge him kids price because there is one little plate of food and that's it. But just understand that you have to be prepared to pay full price, and don't get in a snit about it because, well, my kid didn't even. Well, I'm sorry. This is the way this works. It's the experience. But even other places that have buffets that don't have character meals, like what is it called? Bon Voyage breakfast.
Trattoria al Forno.
That's it. It's a buffet, but they don't have characters. Okay, and there is a prefix price. And you probably will still have to pay the regular prefix price on that, even if it's just one little plate of food. Just be prepared for that. I don't want anybody going into it thinking they're going to save money based on, how much their special diet kid or adult eats. Probably not. Just expect it. So
yeah. Absolutely. And Patty, any buffet stories that you would like to share?
So, like I said, cross-contamination doesn't completely bother me. So they tend to hand me this little like brochure, for lack of a better term. I like, because like I said, mine's in the top 8 or 9, whatever.
It's the top 9, yeah.
And they have like all of the food listed out that you can get in each section, and then a check mark as to whether it's safe for gluten, dairy, shellfish.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And so then I can cross. And then they always say to me, like, do you want to see a chef? Do you want to see a chef? And I can kind of look over that little brochure and say, no, I'm okay. Or yeah, I'd really like to, because there's nothing here that,
maybe that appeals to me that I can.
Right. And so it's nice. They can just, they'll talk to me either way.
Yeah. And I
was it you that one time that we did a dessert party? Was it the Star Wars dessert party?
Yes.
They brought you out like your own bag of stuff.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So
of desserts.
Unfortunately, the Star Wars one's not there anymore, right?
I know.
Right. But I've had clients with food allergies, and they said it's the same thing. They had, like, literally, it was like a grocery bag full of food.
Amazing.
Yes, that was all separate, and
because I remember you were so excited.
Yeah. Well, because like you think, dessert, like there's going to be a lot of gluten, a lot of dairy, a lot of like things you can't eat, but there was like a whole bag of the dessert parts, and then I could still eat the like charcuterie board thing that they had.
Sure.
The meats.
To see even dessert parties, they go.
Exactly.
It's amazing. I think, as you can tell, we all cannot say enough good things about how they accommodate food allergies and food needs and food sensitivities and even food preferences. So like, I think that's just really, it speaks so highly to that Disney difference. And so that's why we say, don't hesitate. They're great with food allergies. I mean, obviously advocate for yourself. You need to let them know you have food allergies.
Yes.
You need to double check. You need to be safe, right? But, as a whole, the Disney company is so understanding and they don't shame anybody. I mean, like, they don't make you feel weird, like, oh, well, we have to do this. They're not like that. They're very magical.
Well, and that's why when people say, well, you're going to do Disney again. Yeah. Well, besides the fact that I love Disney, like, I love the fact that I can eat pretty much everything. Right.
Right.
Like,
and a variety. There's like a lot. There's a lot of different things. So it's just so amazing. But I know we all have some upcoming travels to Disney and other places. So just kind of round robin it here. Next to me, Heather, go ahead. Tell everybody where they can find you.
You can find me at the Moana Mom on Instagram and Facebook. And I live here, so I'm always here.
Yeah, exactly. All right, Patty, how about you?
Yeah. Well, Upon a Star Patty on Facebook and Instagram, and I'm headed to the world in 10 days.
Nice.
Yes, you are. Nice. Yes, you are. You can always email her, patty@uponastartravel.com. David, how about you?
Two things before we end this discussion. Number one, I put down there the email address in case you're watching on YouTube. You can write this email down.
Yes, you do.
Under my little thing here where it says special.diets@disneyworld.com. The website says if you have 4 allergies or more, or for those disabled people who need like specially made, like pureed foods, things like that, or they need something like low protein or whatever, contact them. If it's just dairy, I don't know that you have to go crazy on emails. It's something very common, but if you have several, email them and just kind of work there. The other thing I want to mention too is there is a Whole Foods nearby, near the parks. You can Uber over and Uber back probably for round trip, $30, $35. Go there, stock up on your snacks, stock up on anything you might need for the trip, whether it's eggs, whether it's fruit, whether it's, bag snacks, things like that. We do that every time. We get to go in. We know what Campbell likes. We know the snacks he wants. We have them for the week and we're good. You can find me at the Magic on $1 on Instagram. And also, of course, the lovely Jen and myself have a podcast called the Main Street Electrical Podcast, which comes out every Thursday. And I believe either when you're watching this, either we will have just released or we are releasing an episode on all about Disneyland Paris when we talk about sandals and stuff like that too. So all your important travels coming up. And I'm sure we'll have more to talk about because I see you guys in 5 days, which is awesome.
Yep. And you can email him, David, at uponastartravel.com. You can find me at uponastarjen. Or email me. And of course, you can always find all of the new things at uponastartravel.com or at uponastartravel. And thanks, guys, for joining me. Thank you to the audience for joining us. Remember, there is a whole new world of travel to discover. We'd love to help you out. Thanks for joining us on Travel with the Stars. Have a great day.